And now we're here in the kitchen with Chef James. We're gonna do some cooking with pears. What are we gonna make first?
We're gonna start with a pear bread today.
Okay, pear bread. That's one I have not heard of before.
Well, it's an easy, quick bread recipe and pretty simple and tasty, so.
Nice, let's get started.
Well, we're gonna start by grating some pears. So, I don't peel them, I don't, core them or anything. I figure if you're putting them on the grater, it's less waste. You're not gonna,
Well, it's a whole lot less work.
Well, there's a lot less chance of, ruining your fingertips on the grater. So you can just work around the core just like you're eating it. And then we'll grate all 4 pears and all right, so that finishes up the pears.
Nice. We've got a nice pile of shredded pear.
And one thing that works well too is you don't have to have ripe pears. You can use them when they're still hard and it works just as well. So then we'll move on to the dry ingredients.
So when you have 500 pears from your tree, this is a great
you don't have to let them sit there and all ripen. So then we'll take our dry ingredients. We have 3 cups of flour. We have a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of baking powder, and a teaspoon of soda. We have a teaspoon of cinnamon. And we have a half a teaspoon of cardamom. Cardamom's a lot like cinnamon. It's a little bit less spicy.
All right.
It's fun to use. It gives it a little different flavor. Also, you find sometimes people have allergies to cinnamon, so you can use it in cinnamon rolls or any recipe and kind of get that same flavor.
Well, pears have such a mild flavor. Does that give you a little more room to experiment with flavors that can augment that?
Well, and then that way it's not just overpowered with cinnamon. It still kind of gives it a little bit something different.
All right.
And we'll set that off to the side, and then we'll come to our wet ingredients. So we're going to start off, I'll just set that, with 3 eggs. So we got some nice farm fresh eggs. And then we're going to take and whisk these until they come together and they start to get a little bit light. Add in a cup of oil to that. Oil helps keep things nice and moist. So then we're going to mix that until it starts to get emulsified and nice and thick. And then into that, we'll add our 2 cups of sugar.
Plenty of sugar.
Plenty of sugar. It started off healthy.
Right. Just focus on the pears.
So just get that nice and mixed up. And then we'll add in a teaspoon of vanilla and a cup of milk. Switch away from the whisk. You can keep using the whisk, but I feel like
you're gonna get a lot of pear stuff.
Yeah, that makes it just harder to clean. So we'll go ahead and add in our pears. And then to that, we'll add the dry ingredients. And just kind of folding those in. They don't have to be over mixed or anything crazy. You're just kind of bringing it all together.
Just getting them wet.
So now we've got this all mixed together. There's no dry pockets of flour in there. We'll go ahead and we'll put it into a greased loaf pan. This recipe is probably enough to make 2 loaves like this.
I was just going to ask you that.
You can also experiment with different, other cooking vessels as well. If you want to do it in a cake pan, it's going to, you may want to do it too full, but you could build it into a
Right.
cake or a similar recipe.
You could definitely do muffins.
Yeah.
All right, and you only filled that about half full.
Yeah, so that leaves room for it to rise, and so.
All right, so we'll put that in the oven, 325 degrees for how long?
This will be about 45 minutes, and then depending on, 45 minutes to an hour, and then we'll test it with the toothpick and see how it does.
All right, great. All right, we have this beautiful pear bread, but now you're going to make it into something even better.
Yeah, so we're gonna take and we are gonna do some chef stuffed pear bread French toast.
Nice, all right.
So we're gonna start with our batter first. We've also got our pan over there preheating, so take a couple eggs. Whisk those up nice to break them up.
All right.
And we're gonna throw in our sugar and our cinnamon.
And you cut this recipe in half because we're just going to make a couple of slices
Yeah, we
right
don't
now,
wanna-
but you can just adjust it to how many
Yeah, and
slices
if
you want to make.
and somebody's gonna eat half the loaf warm anyways, you may not have too much left at the
That's true.
to make into French toast. And we're gonna take a little bit of whole milk. And a little bit of cream too, just to make it nice and gives it a little bit more thickness, and that richness.
And this bread has actually sat for a couple of days, which makes it kind of ideal for French toast, right?
Yeah, so it kind of dries it up a little bit. Somewhere around an ounce or so of chef cheese, and we're just gonna spread that in there. If you let it warm up just a little bit so it's not straight out of the fridge.
It'll spread a little bit better for you.
Get a little bit of butter in there, just because butter's better. Now, since there is a lot of sugar in this, you don't want to have your pan too hot. If your pan's too hot, it's going to caramelize too quickly. It's not going to get hot all the way through.
Okay.
Just not do what you want it to do. So make sure it's on, medium, maybe to the medium-low side. It's not going to hurt if it, takes it a few minutes to
All
cook.
right. Oh, wow, that looks perfect.
We'll make it look pretty for everyone, and we'll just give it a little bit of powdered sugar on there. Just give that a cut in half.
All right. And the chev, that goat cheese, is nice and melty,
Yeah.
but it held together well.
Yes,
That's
it's not
great.
oozing out everywhere.
All right, and you're a dipper, not a drizzler.
Yeah, well, and you got the powdered sugar on there, and I don't want my bread to get soggy, so.
All right, well, let's give this a try. The sharpness of that goat cheese is so good with the sweetness of the bread. Chef James, this is fantastic. Thank you so much. All right, I've had the most decadent French toast I've ever had in my entire life. What are you gonna make next?
Next, we're gonna make some pear, arugula, and cheddar grilled cheese.
Oh, that sounds great.
So we're gonna start with some good sourdough bread.
All right.
We're just gonna butter it on the outside. This is a good way to use those canned pears from that fall harvest. So we're gonna go ahead and we'll set that in our pan. And then we've got some sliced cheddar here.
You can tell it's good by the way it crumbles.
So this is from Milton Creamery here in Iowa. Gonna take a few of these pears, let them kind of warm up a little bit. We'll just put them on one side so that way it doesn't make it impossible to flip. And then we'll take our arugula. I have just a little bit of reduced balsamic vinegar, so it's a little bit sweeter, less tangy than, you know, straight balsamic vinegar. So we'll give it a little bit of that. And then just a little bit of salt too to season it up.
All right. Nice and simple.
Yeah, give it a nice little toss.
All right, the cheese is getting melty.
And we're nice and toasty on this, so
All right.
let's move it over to here. Then we're just gonna put the arugula on the side with the pears, so otherwise, you know, it would be almost impossible to flip. Just kind of lay
It's
those
still
on
gonna be
there.
a messy sandwich, but I'll bet it'll be delicious. Oh, perfect. Oh, that's beautiful.
You can use thinner slices of pear. You can refine this, make nice little canapes out of it. But
Nice. Well, let's
for
give it a try.
rustic sandwich at home.
Yeah. It's such an interesting blend of the sweet with the arugula. It's so
Messy.
juicy. It's messy, but the juice from the pears makes it fantastic. That is a really delicious grilled cheese sandwich. Thank you so much.
Thank you.